On today's Locked On Thunder podcast, the Oklahoma City Thunder could make another big move, but will they? The Olympics open up, and we're going to have your mailbag questions.
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's get it going on the Locked On Thunder podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. I am your host, media member, and Inside the Thunder beat writer, Thunder on SI, Rylan Stiles. Follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Follow the show on Twitter at LO ThunderPod. On today's show, we're diving into your mailbag questions. Will the Thunder make another big move? Plus, the Olympics are underway. Today's show is brought to you by our good friends over at FanDuel. Make every moment more as the playoffs wind down, and they're over now. The sports stop to quite sporting as much as we'd like to. All customers, though, can keep the good times rolling this summer at FanDuel as they hook up all customers with a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day all summer long just by visiting FanDuel.com right now. Folks, we're back. Had a week vacation, but now we're back every single day, all the way through the next season, and ready to go. So we'll get through this August period. Then before you know it, I mean, we'll be in the thick of things of next season. A lot to get to today. Let's start with one of the big topics. Could the Thunder go make another big move? No. Simply put, no. You know, you look at the report last week from Clutch Points, and I struggled to call it a report, just for the simple fact that the basis of it was that the Thunder are, quote, real suitors for Lauri Markkanen. But when you actually read what the report is, it was talking about how we never know what the Thunder are going to do, and that they always keep their cards close to the vest. And with that information, plus the assets that the Thunder have, you have to consider them in play for Lauri Markkanen. In reality, you really don't. The Thunder should not, and I don't believe are in play for Lauri Markkanen, because the Thunder can't afford to be in play for Lauri Markkanen. Sure, they can afford the upfront cost, right? But they can't afford the maintenance. You can afford to go trade for Lauri Markkanen tomorrow. As a matter of fact, you'd have the very best package out there for Lauri Markkanen. You'd have the very best package out there for Brandon Ingram or whoever player is available on the open market. You have an open roster spot. You have a plethora of young talent, and you have all the picks any team could ever desire. That's not the problem. The problem is the fact that the Thunder are staring down the barrel of having 3 max contract players, and they simply cannot afford to add a 4th. So as everybody starts to panic and wonder like how the Thunder can retain the 3 guys they already have, you can't then turn around and demand of the Thunder that they go get someone like a Lauri Markkanen. Because getting a Lauri Markkanen would effectively slam shut this window. You'd be giving up on young players. You'd be giving away picks with the knowledge that you can't retain him past these seasons. So it really turns you in from, hey, this could be a decade-long run into you got 2 chances or even 1 chance to make this work. And that's not the way the Thunder should be operating. Because if they were to go make this move, you'd be signaling, hey, one of the 3 between Lauri, Chet, and J-Dub cannot be here long-term. And after ripping off 57 wins last year, playing a competitive series with the Western Conference champs, turning your biggest weaknesses into strengths already this summer by buying the best backup big man and swapping out the ill fit of Josh Giddey for Alex Caruso, who fits this team like a glove, and the expected internal development from both Chet and J-Dub, but that trickles down the entire roster. Like, look how much better Shai looked in one Olympic game, even as the runner-up for MVP. Like, he's still improving on his playmaking, improving on his game. That trickles down to Cason Wallace and to Isaiah Joe and Aaron Wiggins and everyone else on the roster as well. Even Hartenstein's just 26 years old and now has that stability that perhaps he can still grow into his game. So this idea doesn't make sense. And there will technically be reports of the Thunder being quote unquote real suitors for everybody who becomes available until these picks dry up. Because it is easy to throw them into a, NBA offseason notebook and that really be challenged because it is factually correct that the Thunder do keep everything close to the vest and that they have the required assets to go make a move like this. But when you say it out loud, you struggle to see the vision. You struggle to see how it can be put into practice. And even if you're somebody who still after this is just gung-ho ahead on the idea of adding Lauri Markkanen, I think that there's another layer of it too, beyond just the CBA implications and how this would look. On the court, people like to just dream up of that this is the perfect fit for this team, but we've seen Lauri Markkanen when he gets knocked down a peg or two down that pecking order, right? When he's not the number one option, we've seen how that looks, and it doesn't look good. Now, I'll grant you that it was in worse environments than the one he'd be placed in Oklahoma City. I'd grant you that, of course, as a player, that was a long time ago, and of course, he's gotten better since then. But it's also very difficult that once you've gotten the taste of being the number one option, being the guy, being the face of the franchise, it's really hard, especially at this stage of your career, heading into a contract season, being so young, to put the toothpaste back in the tube and just reside to the fact that you're certainly not the number one. There's a good chance you're not the number two, probably not the number three, depending on how things progress. And so for all these reasons, I don't see the Lauri Markkanen stuff happening. I don't think that anyone should really desire for it to happen. I think that the most vested interest the Thunder fan base should have in this saga is that you should hope that he gets traded to the Eastern Conference because the West is so tough. The West is so good that adding Lauri to those teams, obviously, you would imagine will make them better. But besides hoping he lands out East, I don't think that the Thunder are real players here for Lauri Markkanen. And I don't think that they should be. Now, as the report from Clutch Points mentions, the Thunder do keep everything close to the vest. And maybe they just shock the world again. But, this would be a scenario where you're kind of pulling the trigger just to say you pulled the trigger. And I don't think that that's how the Thunder are going to operate. They've already made a ton of big moves. I think if I told you the day after the Mavericks series ended that this offseason the Thunder would swap out Josh Giddey for Alex Caruso and they'd go sign Isaiah Hartenstein, you would tell me to wake up from that dream. And if they actually did, you'd sign the dotted line right then and there to make that happen. But I think because if they had those things, trickle down so quickly, and we didn't get a lot of time to speculate and to hope and to, discuss it prior, that you kind of forget how much they've already accomplished this summer without losing anything. Again, the Josh Giddey swap, it's a huge win for Oklahoma City. A massive win for Oklahoma City. A massive win for Josh Giddey as well, who, as you've seen in the Olympics, has played exceptional in this role that he was never going to get in Oklahoma City. But I don't think that another big move's coming. I'm not even so certain that the Thunder are going to use this last roster spot yet. We've mentioned it, since the roster shuffled out, that when the Thunder have been looking to compete and looking to contend, they've often kept a roster spot open into the deadline, into the buyout market. Perhaps that's what they're going to do with that spot this time around. But no matter who occupies it or what they do with it, I don't think that the move will be Lauri Markkanen or any equivalent to it. I think that the big moves are done. The grand sweeping acquisitions are done for the summer, and you head into this season and you see where you land after a very, very good season. Coming up, the NBA has a new TV deal. I think it's very exciting. I think that there's a component of it that could revitalize the NBA regular season. Olympic play has started, and we'll talk about your mailbag questions all coming up. But first, I want to say right now about our good friends over at FanDuel. Check out FanDuel right now because, we all love sports, but right now, you never want them to stop, and they're not really sporting as much as you want them to. So at FanDuel, they're going to help you stay engaged with the sports you love because you just got to open the app. And if you can dream it, you can bet it anytime. And at FanDuel, they give all customers, returning or new, a bonus or a boost daily. That's right. Every single day, everyone all summer long gets a bonus or a boost daily. So go there right now to FanDuel.com and check it out today. Get the most of your summer because FanDuel is also the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Whenever you go to FanDuel, perhaps you only really love the NBA and would be confident enough to place a wager on the NBA. Well, you can still do that. Now, how can you do that? Because there's no games on. I'll tell you how. You can do that by placing bets on who's going to win the league, who's going to win each conference, who's going to win each division, who's going to win the NBA Cup, and even who's going to win the major awards. Shai is top 3 in MVP voting, only behind Doncic and Jokic. Chet is top 3 in Defensive Player of the Year award, only behind Wembanyama and Rudy Gobert. So you can go place some bets over there if you want to at FanDuel.com and check them out today. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. Thank you so much for making us your first listen every single morning, every single day. We're here for you, talking Thunder basketball. Folks, this is going to be a ton of fun to break down this entire season. We're back every single day, wherever you get your podcast from. Also, check us out, Thunder on SI, Sports Illustrated over there, breaking it all down on Thunder on SI. Also on NBA Draft SI, if you want a more national look from me about the NBA Draft. And of course, check out all the other Locked On podcasts because we are the Locked On Podcast Network, including Locked On Sooners, Locked On Pokes, college football heating up. I think that fall camp's open this week, probably. So you can go check out what the Sooners and Oak State is doing right now. Let's talk about the NBA TV deal. I think it's very exciting. I know this is kind of inside baseball, kind of nerdy stuff to some fans, but bear with me. We're sitting here in the doldrums of the NBA offseason. So the NBA TV deal, the TV rights deal, it now includes these partners: ESPN ABC, NBC Peacock, and Amazon. When football season ends, there will be 7 days of nationally televised games. For those keeping track at home, that's every single day blanketed in national coverage of the NBA. The lineup will look like Monday, Peacock; Tuesday, NBC; Wednesday, ESPN; Thursday, Amazon; Friday, Amazon, ESPN; Saturday, ABC, Amazon. With that in mind, the first thing that jumps out at you on this kind of overall level, you better have these platforms. You better have Peacock. You better have Amazon. Because with 7 days worth of national coverage, and I imagine that these will be double headers each day, the Thunder could have a week where they play nearly every single day. Because when you look at this team, they project to be so good and so talented that they're going to warrant, the spotlight and warrant being on that stage. But furthermore, when you look at this team and look at how the league can manage the whole, 9:30 tip time, because typically in doubleheaders you have a 6:30 tip, a 9:30 tip. The Thunder can occupy that 9:30 tip, being in the Western Conference, and kind of airing in that space. There's a good chance that you'll have multiple times a week where you have to pay for a subscription to watch these games. So get used to that. Get ready for that. It is interesting. I think that it could be met with the same quorums that Thursday Night Football is met with Amazon. Then the season begins. You watch a few Thursday night games, realize it's not that different than normal, and you go and away you go. I do have an interesting angle at this of maybe the hiccup could be for basketball specifically. If you're going to have 7 days of national TV, and for example, Monday historically is a day where the entire league plays, or over half the league plays, depending on how the week shakes out. If you're going to have an exclusive game on Peacock or 2 games that day on Peacock, what does it look like for flipping to the next game? In the sense of 6:30 slot rolls around, the Peacock game is Knicks Sixers. Supposed to be a great game, supposed to be awesome, but Philadelphia comes out and hits 15 threes in the first half. This game is over. Let's go check in on some other game. Do you have to back out completely of Peacock, get into whoever you get your television through to see your local team, then back out of that and get into League Pass if you want to check out some different games? Or are they going to find a way to streamline this where, like, League Pass, you plug in your information of like, yes, I have Peacock, this is my information. Yes, I have Amazon, this is my information. And I can watch any single game I want to via Peacock. Via League Pass. That, I think, could negate some of these issues. But if you can't do that, then I could see where, like, some fans who like to bounce around from game to game each night might take some time to adjust to that fact, where it's not as seamless, not as easy as it is right now. Because right now, it's super easy to bounce around, especially if you get League Pass through your provider, whether it be DirecTV or YouTube TV or whoever. Now, past that was just an aside. There's, talks of ESPN being in the works for a Red Zone style show. And by the way, Amazon, just kind of think of them as the new TNT. They'll have the Thursday doubleheaders. They'll have the playoffs where they go and they get one conference finals each year between them and ABC. They're like partner B right behind ABC. Amazon will also have NBA Cup finals. But ESPN is dreaming up this NBA version of NFL Red Zone. And I think that if it's done right, that can save the regular season. I mean, that can save the sport if it's done right. Now, granted, it's got to be done right. But if you find someone who's able to host in NBA Red Zone, whatever you want to call it, NBA Center Court, whatever you want to call it, and they can work sicko hours to where, like, whatever day has more than 2 games on, so it's like Thursday, there's only the 2 games. You can get the day off Thursday of NBA Red Zone. Whatever game has more than 2 or 3 games on that day, you are working. So you're working like 6 days, 5 days a week. But you're insanely knowledgeable about every little intricate detail that's happening in these venues. It can really refresh the regular season to where you're basically forcing people to sit down and watch the games live rather than what they do right now, which, like, a lot of people who consider themselves NBA fans, who consider themselves fans of the sport, they don't actually watch live games. They sit on social media, wait for the highlights to roll in, wait for the discourse to roll in. The next day, they go watch a few clips on YouTube. They go watch their favorite podcast. They go consume their favorite content creator. And then they do it again the next night. But, like, if you can really tap in to what Scott Hansen's able to do, especially like whenever the Red Zone, for example, in lieu of commercials, since they're commercial free for 7 hours, they might show you a play that's already happened, right? Like in real time, it's already happened. So they might show you a play or 2 prior to live action to get you caught up with what's going on and, like, all the details surrounding it. That way you have the full impact of that live shot to the stadium. And I think that with that same effort into the NBA Red Zone, it could overhaul the way we talk about the NBA's regular season. But I think that part of why the NFL regular season is not stale and boring is because of Red Zone, and also because it's only, your team only plays 1 day a week. Obviously, the NFL has expanded to Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, Sunday, Monday, but your team only plays 1 day a week. That helps too. The limited number of games helps too. But I think that one thing that does help you stay in tune to all of it is fantasy football and how good of a job Red Zone does of, like, you're not just watching one game, but you feel like you know exactly what went on in every single game that night, that day. You know exactly what happened. So if you get someone in there who can tell the stories and the backstories and why these 2 teams don't like each other, why this player just pointed at that player and they got into it a little bit, if you know all those little details, it would be like watching that kind of nonstop, perfectly curated highlight package on social media that you can kind of go and watch in real time and make you understand the little intricacies of the regular season. Because there's like certain moments that, like, whenever you're watching the NBA, you might think that your team's playing this ultra important regular season game because they're on a 3-game losing streak and they've got to win this game because they're only a game and a half back of this team. And to the common, casual fan, they look at the slate that day and just say, okay, well, Oklahoma City's in San Antonio or whatever, right? And it means so much more than that. If you can get someone in the host chair of NBA Red Zone that can kind of convey that sort of emotion of each game, I think it can turn into a new look on the regular season. Because right now, many younger fans especially consider the regular season boring, overdone, right? Meaningless. Getting away from that, those adjectives, I think would be good for the NBA's regular season. Coming up, let's talk about your mailbag questions. But first, I want to tell you right now about our good friends over at eBay Motors. eBay Motors is awesome. eBay Motors has everything that you're looking for because they understand, folks, that passion, drive, patience, that's the winning formula for championships. It's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performances with superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. So no matter if you're into speed or power or style, eBay Motors has you covered. Over 122 million parts to choose from. Your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for with eBay's Guaranteed Fit. It's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or your money back, because with eBay Motors Guaranteed Fit, you will be burning rubber, not cash, with all the parts that you want at the prices you want. It's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home the huge win every time. Make your ride or die and keep it alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Motors, only available to U.S. customers. So check it out today. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. Thank you so much for making us your first listen every single morning, every single day. We're for you, talking Thunder basketball. You can find me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Find me on Thunder on SI, Sports Illustrated, talking about the Thunder there as well. And the Locked On Podcast Network. Check out the Locked On Sports Today YouTube channel. It is a free 24/7 stream of all the biggest stories in sports. Right now, we're diving into your mailbag questions on this Mailbag Monday. At HogsFan2001, what would you consider a successful 2025 season? Mine would be a top 3 seed and making the Western Conference Finals. So the expectations around this Thunder team are going to continue to grow. And the bar will continue to be raised. The Thunder have done enough to be considered contenders. The Thunder have done enough to rightfully place themselves as the second best odds to win the NBA Finals. And so that's the expectation. You're expecting this team to compete for championships. You're expecting this team to be one of the best in the sport. Now, obviously, things happen. It's why you play the games. Injuries, bad series, outlier games. This is why you follow the sport, because you just never know what can happen. Nobody thought that the Thunder last year would win 57 games. But the Thunder have done everything right to this point in their rebuild. They've built this perfect team that on paper right now possesses 0 flaws. And it comes down to, as far as their postseason aspirations, because yes, in the regular season, this team is young enough to still care. As of right now, you just saw Chet Holmgren play 82 games. So as of right now, there is no glaring, massive load management concerns where they're going to play as much as possible when they're available. This team should exactly be a top 3 seed in the West. We saw it last year where Denver, Minnesota, and Oklahoma City played this, just 3 incredible seasons, and they all had great records. It didn't truly matter who was the 1 seed, 2 seed, 3 seed. So yeah, top 3 seed is fair in the tough Western Conference. If they were playing in the East, of course, it'd be different. You'd want them to be number 2 right behind Boston. But in the West, it's a little trickier to like peg down the exact seed. So I'll say top 3 seed along with you. And then from there, for postseason success, especially, this team has no flaws. In the sense of like, they have no, like, you got to go improve this area. What has to happen for postseason success is that Chet and J-Dub have to be ready to go. Chet and J-Dub have to be ready to continue to progress. They have to be ready to match Shai and to be the second and third options on a championship level team, which is really hard. It's really tough. And neither one of those guys were ready last year, and that's okay. That was their first ever go of it. What the Thunder have done so well is that they have prepared themselves for whenever those two guys get up to speed, whenever those two guys become ready to be the second and third option, the team around them is ready. The supporting cast is ready. They're just waiting for their lead stars to take charge, to hit the spotlight. So I think that it's absolutely fair to say that this team, to be successful, like to be a year that you leave satisfied, it's the Western Conference Finals, and you can expect them to compete for the NBA championship. But like, if they went to the Western Conference Finals this year and lost in Game 6, I don't think anyone calls that a disappointment. So like, what's the disappointment line? What would be a line that like you leave and you're just like, what the heck? Like, what happened? Missing the playoffs, massive disappointment. Losing in the first round, terribly disappointing. A non-competitive second round series, very disappointing. A competitive second round series, underwhelming. A competitive second round series, like if you see a bracket where like you got to go play Denver in round 2, Minnesota in round 2, Dallas in round 2 again, and you lose an absolute knockout, drag-out fight. Underwhelming, sure, certainly. You would want this team to do bigger and better things than that. You make the Western Conference Finals and you lose in a competitive series, that's an overwhelming success. You make the NBA Finals, that's an overwhelming success. You win the NBA championship, that's euphoria. So that's kind of the way you got to view this team from now on. Like till the end of this core, that's how they're going to be judged. And that's a very unfair place to be, right? Because it's incredibly hard to do those things and to get over the hump. But that's the world you live in now, if you're Oklahoma City. We'll continue on here. Hippo Dresser. Which era of basketball would Elvis have been the most impactful in? All of them, frankly. He's the king, EP, of pop and everything, or of rock and roll, I should say. But, judging by his movies, albums, say he'd be most dominant with a three-point shot. I'd say you stick on one of those Warriors teams, I bet he has a nice three-point stroke on him. So let's go with the 2012s, 15s, 16s era. We'll continue on with your topics here and your questions here. Michael Nix asked, how realistic is the possibility of OKC getting Lauri Markkanen? I just want to give you a shout out. We did address your question at the top of the show, but want to give you a shout out for being someone who asked about it in this space. Let's talk more about your questions. This one coming from Ja Godfrey. What remaining moves do you see as a realistic possibility moving forward? I think that the only real possibility moving forward, from now until the deadline, is that this team might fill out their roster because yes, they have operated with an open spot for themselves when contending before. It's almost as though they have two open spots, though, in the sense of, not actually, but in the sense of like Topic is taking up a spot. He cannot play this year. He's hurt. He did have successful ACL surgery, but he is hurt. He's out for the whole season. So like Topic is occupying a spot that cannot be played. That will be a slot of your roster that has 0 minutes. The open roster spot, of course, projects to have 0 minutes right now on your roster. And this is a team that likes to dip down to 10, 12, 11 guys a game. So like I could see them before camp ends filling that spot on like a non-guaranteed multi-year contract with team options after this season. But that would be the furthest I think that they go. Who that player is, your guess is as good as mine if they do decide to go that route. We'll continue on with your questions. Last one from Austin Lauri. Who are your top 3 bench/rotation guys from the 2010s? Technically speaking, Darius Bazley played in 2019. Technically, 2019, would be somewhere that counts in the 2010s. You'd have to imagine. So tough not to pick him, right? So I'll say Darius Bazley. The guy's got his jersey retired. I'll say Nick Collison. And you got to go with his 2-man partner and James Harden. So that would be the 3 bench rotation players of the 2010s era. I would imagine that you met someone less impactful than the 6th man of the year. And Bazley, of course, was a starter for better or worse during his era. But we'll have to brainstorm on that one. We'll do some nostalgia pods this month for sure. So thank you all for listening. Again, appreciate you sticking with after the week off. But we're back every single day, wherever you get your podcast from, including on YouTube and also any other podcasting platform that you have. So subscribe over there. Also, check out Thunder on SI. Check me out on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. And until tomorrow, as we recap what's happened to that point in the Olympics and preview the ever-important Josh Giddey Shai battle, be good and be good to one another.